It's funny because when you tell people play rock and roll, they're like, well, what kind of rock and roll? I'll just say rock and roll. You know, I write poetry, and then in addition to that, I'm a musician. I'll never tell what a song is exactly about because you might take away that person's extraction, what they draw up. And I lived all up and down the East Coast, from DC to Virginia to Providence, New Hampshire. And after Reading on the Road, I hitchhiked everywhere. My family's mostly from Boston, Quincy. But my Aunt Barbara has these great pictures of Kerouac, and she used to have to babysit him when he was drinking and bring him all the bars all over Lowell. My aunt was like, they're perched up on a 49 Studebaker and she's smoking a butt, and he's just kind of, you know, loose and sitting on this Studebaker, and she's kind of upright smoking a cigarette, and she's got one of those pencil skirts or whatever on, and it's one of the best pictures. I don't think I could ever compare myself to him, but he was, you know, a writer. I write poetry. And Dylan said, if you ever want to be a great songwriter, you got to study the greats. And I remember reading his book, and he was really into Rimbaud and a lot of the classics, Tennyson and Yeats and all those guys, so I just kind of studied them. I got a shitty little Yamaha guitar, and I remember practicing. This kid from Woolworths used to come out during his lunch break and teach me how to play. And then I had this little book, and I taught myself the rest. I think my father had, you know, the talent. My mom could never play music, but she had a really rich appreciation for all the greats, and she handed me a stack of records when I was a kid, and I remember she always would give me these little pieces of music trivia all the time. And growing up, you're kind of like, all right, Mom, yeah, whatever. But she would always just feed me stuff all the time. That's a great photo up there. So you got Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elvis. And there's a session where they all came into Sun Studios for the day. They were all just coming up at the time, and Elvis hadn't had his first hit yet. We couldn't afford much. My mom would always try to sell things or do whatever she had to do to make sure that, like, we weren't like the scrubby kids. But she would also take us to thrift stores all the time. And, you know, a lot of kids growing up were like, yeah, we were cool because we went to the thrift store, but we had to go to the thrift store. But I loved it. I loved finding things that I knew nobody else would have. And I remember since I was a little kid, I always had like little plaid suits and stuff like that. You know, and, like, I like bow ties. This jacket, it's got some stories behind it, but I can tell you that it's from the 50s. She's definitely in need of repair, but I always wear my little jacket all the time. I bought it off of this Vietnamese shop, and they had all these jackets in there, and I saw that they had this Rat Fink jacket. I always loved Rat Fink growing up, and it's an original Rat Fink jacket from the 60s. Great. I got this one. Actually is the same cast from Keith Richards' Ring, and it was made for me from the guys at Against Nature. There's never like this exact formula for anything. It's always whatever comes to me and channeling that. Sometimes I'll get a melody in my head and then I'll write something in structure around that. Sometimes I'll write a poem and then I'll put that to something else I was writing. Or sometimes something has its own energy all to itself, and the lyrics come with the chords and everything else, and I just put everything together. You know, no matter what has happened, no matter what I've lost in life, no matter who I've lost, that there's always that feeling you get when you hear that song that does something to you, that it takes you somewhere. And that's what I go on. Actually, I pulled a quote, and it says, "A man's work is nothing but this slow trek to rediscover through the detours of art those 2 or 3 great and simple images in whose presence his heart first opened." I don't know, I think music is where my heart first opened, and that feeling has never changed.